Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 481. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, per usual, Gail from nyfights.com. What's going on, Gail?
Hey, we are here. The boxing schedule heating up a little bit. We're going to have isn't there some kind of basketball tournament that's going to get in the way the next few weeks? But, the spring boxing season
Yeah,
is here. Thank goodness. It's about time.
indeed. Hope to have Daniel from Four Boxing News Indian Scriber with us later on in the episode. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show, podcast, discussing all things boxing. Motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it has any concern, if it concerns boxing, it will get discussed. If you check the description below, you'll find the links to where to find everything Pound for Pound Boxing Report related on social media. Link to where to find us on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X. Where to find the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, etc. Also, where you can donate, got Cash Me and PayPal donation link as well. If you wish to contribute, everybody's getting their taxes done. If you wish to share a little coin with us, it wouldn't matter if it's $1, $2, $5, whatever you would like to contribute. We will be grateful. It will help the overall production behind the scenes. And before we begin things, I want to, in previous episodes during the intro, I've talked about Smell Good and how I am an affiliate for Nevrod Fragrances. I want, in that same vein, I want to give a big shout out to the Can We Be Fragrant podcast that discusses colognes, perfumes, everything smell good related. Yours truly was a guest on the Can We Be Fragrant podcast a couple of weeks ago. If you just look up do a search of Can We Be Fragrant um, here on YouTube, you should be able to find it. A live episode that I did a couple of weeks ago. Had an awesome time doing that. So just wanted to give a shout out to the folks over at the Can We Be Fragrant podcast. Let's get things going this evening. Gail, recapping what took place this weekend when it comes to all things sweet science. Let's go to Anaheim. Uh, Main event, Arnold Barboza Jr. Um, Still stinging a little bit off of that loss to Teofimo Lopez last summer, returning to the ring at 147 pounds against Kenneth Sims Jr. Overall, pretty impressive performance by Barboza Jr. at 147. He got the win and got the win fairly easily. Here's my question. When it comes to 147-pound landscape, it's evolving, right? With Garcia, with Devin Haney, Boots Ennis has left the division. You got Conor Benn, who claims he's going to come down to 147. Where does Barboza fit in? I think he's a good fighter. I just don't think he's an A-level fighter. Your thoughts?
I agree with you. He's a good fighter, but not a great fighter. He did what he needed to do, and he was the betting underdog going into the fight with Kenneth Sims Jr. Kenneth Sims, boy, he didn't seem like he could get out of first gear practically the whole fight. He had one good round, I believe it was the sixth round, where he seemed to kind of wake up and catch on fire, and then poof, it was gone again. So Barboza, he's very good at ring generalship in that he's good at both cutting off the ring and directing the direction of the fight, if that makes sense. He is the guy. If he wants you to go backward, he's going to get you to go backward. If he wants to get you to circle to the left, he does it. He's terrific that way. This was his first fight at welterweight, and he talked before the fight during fight week about how he really should have moved up several fights ago. Boy, how many times have you and I heard a guy say, "Yeah, boy, I should have gone up and weighed a long time ago." And he had that poor performance against Teofimo Lopez. He wasn't directly blaming having to make weight for his performance, and nor should he. That's no excuse. but he did look good. He looked strong, big. What a lot of people might not know is that Barboza played football in high school, was an aspiring, pro. He weighed 200 pounds at one point when he was playing football. So for him to now be fighting at 147, honestly, that's pretty impressive that he got down to 140 all those years. But it's a good weight for him. And it's a smart thing to do in that up to this point, the division is a little thin. If you look at the Ring Magazine rankings, for what they're worth these days, Barboza is fourth ranked in the division. Is that reflective of how good he is or how thin the talent is? So it's smart for both Garcia and Haney to try to take over in the division. You still have Brian Norman out there, with a question mark a little bit to me over his head. He's currently ranked in the top 5, and I think he's right in front of Barboza. Barboza will certainly get another title shot, I think. He's an attractive opponent in that, he doesn't lay down. He's got a lot of very devoted fans. God bless them. They showed up in Anaheim. They're all wearing his swagged T-shirt. I mean, everywhere I looked, someone was wearing a South El Monte, California T-shirt. Is he a thrill ride? No. He's solid. He does everything well. Nothing spectacular, but he gets the job done. A lot of people I know on social media were commenting that this fight was a snooze fest. I will tell you the fans were a little more engaged there in person than you might think because he's a California guy and they're behind him. And a lot of it was just my personal disappointment in where Kenneth Sims was. I mean, he just really didn't show up. I guess he's still licking his wounds after losing to Barboza's stablemate, Oscar Duarte. I don't know. He really needs to have a rethink about where he's going in the future, too.
While I still have some you and I both may have some personal questions about Barboza and where he fits in the welterweight landscape, there are no doubts, no questions about the next two fighters we're about to talk about. Um, Oscar Collazo and Gabriela Fundora. Let's start with Collazo, who made easy work of Jesus Haro, uh, um, retaining his unified belts at 105 pounds, right? Um, when it comes to the lower weight divisions, Collazo is lead. I would expand that, Gail, in a pound for pound sense. There's a serious argument that Collazo is now making that he belongs in that list. Dominant reign at 105 pounds. You saw how much bigger he looked than his opponent, right? To me, I know they want to seek undisputed, right? After the fight, Collazo talked about fighting a rematch with Melvin Jerusalem, a guy who he already beat and stopped, by the way. I would like to see Collazo move up to 108 pounds. He has the talent, he has the size to do just as much damage in that division that he's doing currently at 105 pounds.
Yeah, he does. He was the fighter on this card I most wanted to see in person. It was my first opportunity to watch him. And he was in with an opponent who gave his best effort, but just simply was not at his level. I mean, Collazo just, took his soul out of him round after round to the point that he finally did a no moss in the corner after 6 rounds on the advice of his training team who said, "It's not your night, son." And it wasn't. Yeah, Collazo is just a supreme talent, seeing them in front of your eyes, you do look, and of all things, referee Thomas Taylor, really to be the finest referee in boxing right now, or certainly among the top 5, he was assigned this fight. Taylor is a big guy. he's a bodybuilder out of the ring, as a hobby, and he gets a lot of the fights among the bigger weight divisions. You frequently see him assigned to the heavyweights and light heavyweights, and I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing putting Thomas Taylor in there next to the two minimum weights? What the heck is that? So you see these guys, with Taylor standing next to them, and you realize how small they really are. But without that frame of reference, you would never know. And Collazo's just such a fine performer. There's so many things he does well. He moves well. His footwork's excellent. He punches from angles. So, he isn't like a metronome. There's a surprise coming out of him. He enjoys his work. He's a power puncher for the size. He's entertaining. He's every good thing there is. But you know what, Michael? He is not going to move up. He's made it very clear. He is going nowhere until he unifies and becomes undisputed at minimum weight, because there's never been an undisputed champion at minimum weight, and he wants to be the first one. Because minimum weight hasn't been around that long. I think the minimum weight division was carved out in, I want to say, something like 1987. So, it's got enough history that it is a little surprising that it has not been an undisputed champion, a unified undisputed champion. But yeah, Collazo is going to hang around until he gets those other belts. So he's got to fight Jerusalem for one of them. That's why they want to do the rematch. And then, the fourth belt, the IPF belt's held by
Tataran.
Pedro Tataran. So who has a fight coming up? He is fighting on the Manny Pacquiao Promotions card the first Friday night in April in Temecula, California. So he's got a title defense. So the three guys with the belts are all fighting kind of around the same time, because Jerusalem is teed up for a fight here pretty quick. So, we're going to just have to wait. But Collazo's giving himself till the end of the year. He says he's vowing he will be undisputed by the end of the year. And he also is vowing he wants to be well up in the top 10 of the pound for pound list. And I agree with you. He absolutely belongs there. I do think that the folks who vote on those sort of things, if you're looking at the ring committee anyway, absolutely do recognize his talent. A lot of those voters are in Southern California who've been able to see him. So we'll give him, we're going to have to spot him the next 9 months. Let him do his business here at minimum weight. And then we'll get to see him have some fun at 108, maybe 112, 115. I'm not sure how far he can go. And he's a little bit older, he's gotten a little bit of a late start at this level of his career. I want to say I don't think
he's 28, 29.
28, 29. It is 29. I was going to say, I don't think he's quite 30. And he knows that. He knows he's sort of got to step on the gas. So, you won't get your wish right away, Michael, but we'll still get to see him perform. And that's no small thing. He really is, in my mind, the best smaller, really small weight division fighter since Roman Gonzalez was fighting in these divisions.
The only concern, excuse me, I have, Gail, is the fact that the WBA, right? There's a fighter by the name of Matsumoto who fought over the weekend in Japan. He's the WBA regular champion. Do not be surprised if the WBA tries to enforce Collazo fighting him, and either Golden Boy's gonna have to, spread a little coin around to give to Matsumoto, kind of step aside fee money. If they don't, knowing how these sanctioning bodies go, they might try to strip Collazo if they force order that fight, excuse me, and Collazo refuses, right? So that's my only stumbling block. Outside of that, I have no pushback.
Well, the problem is that you got to wrangle those other two. I mean, really, the two Filipinos should fight each other, unify, and then fight Collazo. I mean, really, that's the optimal.
Well,
And
keep in mind that
yeah,
this Collazo, this fight was supposed to be against Jerusalem
yes, it
in a
was.
rematch.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, the sanctioning bodies are going to do what they're going to do. And I heard a lot of people grumbling about, well, this should have been Jerusalem. You know what? Collazo got to appear in front of a different audience in Southern California than he has before. And activity matters. It was smart for him to get in there, you know, get a fight under his belt to start 2026. I mean, it was, not difficult work for him. He looked great. I think it was a smart thing for him to do to stay busy, even if the opponent wasn't really on the level he's looking for.
and speaking of other exceptional fighters, um, Gabriela Fundora, who's undisputed women's champion at 112 pounds, she may be my favorite fighter to watch, period. I'm not going to say for a woman or anything like that, just fighter, period. Uh, Give her that kind of respect. Don't use no qualifiers when it comes to women's fight boxing and when it comes to her specifically. She also fought on the undercard of that, and she said she wanted to steal the show, and a strong argument can be made that she did, um, stopping fighter by the name of Corredo. I don't
Viviana,
know,
Viviana
man. Oh my,
Ruiz Corridor. Yep.
corridor. I don't know if there's anyone. I don't care who it is right now. If you want to be specific to women's boxing, I know Taylor and Shields gets all the publicity. Shields loves to talk about how dominant as she is, but she's not stopping folks like Fundora is. And if you talk to men, um, to ascend like Fundora has this rapidly and to just overwhelm the competition like she has, Gabriela Fundora, awfully impressive both in and out of the ring, Gail.
She is a phenomenon. There's no question about it. She is a legitimate power puncher. She turns her hooks over on the knuckles like Gennady Golovkin, which, when you point it out to her, she is delighted. She loves it. She scored her sixth knockout in her last 7 fights. Out of her 18 fights, she has 10 knockouts. That's with 2-minute rounds. She's never fought a 3-minute round to this point. And several months ago, I did a study of the top male knockout punchers um, through history, the Foremans, the Golovkins, etc., and looked at how many of their knockouts came in that third minute versus measuring them for their knockouts only in the 2-minute range. Even the power punchers with 90% knockout rates of the males, when you took that third minute away from them, their knockout percentages at the highest levels were about 50%. Amanda Serrano, up until she started competing in some of the heavier weight divisions, was able to have that 50% plus knockout rate. Fundora is quite a bit up. She's closing in on 60% knockout rate, and in her last 7 fights, 6 knockouts. So impressive. She's really learned to do what it takes. She's aggressive. She oozes confidence. She moves so well. She can work off the back foot. I mean, she's got those long levers for arms too. So she's always going to have that reach advantage. And unlike her brother, she has really learned better how to snap off the punch at the full extension of her arm. But she'll also fight in the
She
inside
uses
just
her
like
height
him.
better,
She uses her
way
height
better,
far
much
better.
better than her brother
Yeah, her
does.
brother could
And
hold
she's
it.
better defensively.
Yeah, yeah. But once she's got somebody that knows that that thing's coming, she'll move in once she's loosened them up. And she was also drilling Corridor with some massive body shots. She landed a hard liver shot in the third round. I'm really surprised Corredo didn't go down. She hit Corredo with a check left hook at the very end of the fourth round, and if there'd been any more time, she would have gone then. But she pushed the pace up in the fifth. She kept Ruiz Corredo eating hooks. Her eye was starting to swell. And then in the sixth round, she just unloaded. And Ray Corona, the referee, he hovered right at the outside of the range. And, to his credit, he gave Corredo a chance. She was technically the WBA interim world champion. Why do they need an interim world champion when they have a full world champion that's undisputed? That's WBA doing WBA things. But he gave her the respect to really let it go as long as he could, but he had to move in. And she is starting to add in a lot of the showmanship that the top fighters have, born of that confidence and knowing that they want the fans to remember them. They want to be that kind of draw. Talking to her after the fight, she said, I actually held back a bit to give the fans a show. Every potential opponent out there should say, what? You did what? And you still knocked her out in 6 rounds. And she said, right now, this is the quote she gave me, right now, I just want the fans to go home and remember, damn, that Fundora, she always gets knockouts. I want to see her. So, smart cookie. She really has run out of opponents at 112 pounds. And yes, she could move up to 115 where there is a very tasty fight waiting for her in Mizuka Haruta. But she wants to go back to 108, earn a belt there so she can claim a division championship and then go to 115. And asked, could she make 108? She no problem, because she weighed in at 110 and a fraction for her 112-pound fight. And that girl has breakfast every day of fight week. So just like her brother, whatever is in the Fundora DNA and metabolism should be studied by medical science, because she could easily get down to 108, especially with that goal in mind of I want to grab that division, as part of my resume, get a belt there, then she'll go up and tackle 115. I really do not think there's much of a challenge for her till she gets to maybe 122, 126. I would love down the road to see her fight Trinika Johnson. I think that would be a dandy fight. Trinika has really come on as a talent. But the good news is she's 23 years old. She is loving this. She is full steam ahead. We're going to get to watch her for several more years, which is really good news for fight fans.
Yeah, Shanika Johnson, who I believe is currently undisputed at 108 pounds. You mentioned going down to 108. Keep an eye on Evelyn Bermudez. Fundora mentioned her leading up to the fight. Bermudez holding 3 of the 4 world belts at 108 pounds. I think she's one.
By the way,
in that weight range, you could give her a tussle.
Yeah, Trinika is not at 108. She's at 118. She's bantamweight.
She's at 118. Yeah, I said bantamweight. While Bermudez is at 108.
So
you also mentioned
that was clear. Yeah.
Oh, my apologies if I said that. But Shanika Johnson, who's undisputed at 118 bantamweight. Yep. You also mentioned the WBO champion at 115, Haruta, who has a fight coming up. I want to say next month.
She does. She is booked to fight. And I don't think it's on the schedule, but she is. She is going to have a fight pretty quick. And she is signed with 360 Promotions, Tom Waffler's Southern California based company. So she fights a lot in Southern California. So that would be a massive draw matchup in Southern California. all of Fundora's California fans, all of Haruta's California and Japanese fans. So that'd be a damn good fight, a lot of fun. But she's at 115, so I think we'll be waiting a little bit on Fundora, because if she's gonna squeak her way down to 108, she kind of needs to do it now while it's not, too much of a stretch for her.
Yeah, but as it stands right now, yeah, Gabriela Fundora, she has wiped the slate clean at 112 pounds, and she may have one, two more title defenses, but I would guess by the end of this year, if not early 2027, you will see her trying to move down to win a title at 108 pounds. Fighter of the Year candidate took place this past weekend. Gail, um, light heavyweight Najee Lopez, bloody, took his fair share of punches. Um, Fought Manuel Gallegos, pulled out the win. Um, he's, as much as anybody, has been the talk, particularly of hardcore fans coming off of this weekend.
Yeah, boy, credit to ProBox for putting this fight together. And really, ProBox is, gained over the last few years a reputation of really matching their fighters tough, putting together fan-friendly, all-action entertaining fights. And boy, they succeeded. Clearly the leader in the clubhouse, in my opinion, for Fight of the Year. Yeah, I get it. It's only March, but somebody has to be first on the list. You know, these two light heavyweights went at it from the opening bell, all action slugfest, a lot of back and forth action. Both of them have tremendous chins. They were giving and taking in equal measure, and both were down at different points of the fight. Lopez got rocked, knocked down in the seventh round. Um, and he managed to survive, get a chance to recover a little bit, and came back to score the knockout. They were both cut. It was bloody. It was crazy. Man, credit to Manuel Gallego. Nobody is going to mind seeing him again, despite the fact that he lost this fight. I mean, he was more than commanding his own, including the knockdown of Lopez, right up to the point that Lopez turned the tables on him and got him out of there. He buzzed him real hard. He saw that he was in trouble, and he was smart. He unloaded everything he had left in the tank. They were both in phenomenal condition, or that fight couldn't have proceeded like it did. Everything that fans love in a fight, it wasn't particularly sophisticated. Who cares? It was every bit of power, fortitude, grit that you could possibly want. And with both of them looking good, really an even fight right up to the end. So great win for Lopez. He's very motivated to make his mark in a competitive light heavyweight division. Where you've got an undisputed champion sitting at the top with all the belts, and he knows that at some point those belts are going to come into play, and he wants a shot at one of them. And I mean, who wouldn't give him that shot after that terrific performance on Friday? And if you didn't see it, because you're doing something else Friday night, or you haven't sort of gotten wise to the ProBox cards, it is on the ProBox TV YouTube channel, full fight. Go back and watch it. You'll thank me later.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And look for him to shoot up in the rankings subsequently. And at the very least, people want to see him again. He's going to become, if he keeps it up, he's going to become emerging in terms of a guy that folks will want to see, because you can't help but gain fans off of that kind of
Yeah.
effort and
Well,
performance.
and although he was trying to think of where he's born, but he is Puerto Rican by heritage. So, he carries that banner with him. This was a classic Mexico versus Puerto Rican fight, which, also made it fun. Yeah, he is a native of Atlanta, Georgia, but Puerto Rican by heritage. So, I mean, just everything going for him you can possibly imagine.
I had mentioned a fighter by the name of Mats Matsumoto, who fought over in Japan while we were talking about Oscar Collazo. I mentioned him again because he was part of what turned into what was a card in Yokohama, Japan. I ended up covering for 3kingsboxing.com. Shout out to everybody at 3kingsboxing.com over there, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Three world title fights plus the Nonito Donaire. I'm not going to talk about all of those fights. I want to focus on two fights from that card, Gail. First, um, Anthony Olascuaga, right, has a belt at 112 pounds. Fought a fighter by the name of Limura, stopped him in 9. Pretty much had his way throughout. Olascuaga is showing himself to be a real legit guy um, at 112, right? And in within the lower weight divisions, he's established himself. I want him to make the next step. And for me, the next step is I want him to start him and his camp to start seeking unification, right? Be it against Yabuki, be it against Ricardo Sandoval, should Sandoval uh, uh, beat Galal Yafai. That fight between Sandoval and Galal Yafai is going to happen next month um, in Europe. I forgot the countries of exactly, but it's time for Olascuaga. Exciting fighter, talented fighter. I think he's one of the hardest hitters in that lower weight division range. That say that 105 to 115, 118 area. Um, he's good enough where he should be, where him and his camp should consider starting thinking about fighting the best of the very best at 112 pounds.
Oh yeah, he's there. He's got everything it takes to do it. You know, for those who don't know, Olascuaga trains in LA right alongside Junto Nakatani, who's his stablemate. You know, and
That's right.
they have quite the affinity going between them, and frequently they've put both these guys on the same card, which is really smart. And you get a 2-for-1 because you know they're both being trained by Rudy Hernandez, so it's not a bad thing. Um, yeah, he's an enjoyable fighter to watch. He's got a lot of personality. I mean, anybody that decided to adopt the nickname La Princesa, which was given to him originally as a joke, people hazing him, and he was like, "Call me a princess? Great, hand me the tiara. I'm all about it." And he's an action fighter. Again, you know, one of these supreme talents in the lower weight divisions. He's done so much of his fighting against Japanese opponents. I mean, that is no small challenge. And so he's really honed his skills, you know, against the top talent in the world. He's really ready for just about anything.
Indeed, indeed. And I mentioned Sandoval. There's no guarantee that he's going to beat EFI, especially since Matchroom won the purse bid for that fight. Right. The question with Sandoval, was that win over Kenshiro, was that just a one-off fluke, or is he a real guy? I would love personally. I would love Ola Skawaka to fight Yabuki, who has the IBF belt. Yabuki has one of the best jabs in the sport, and he just a pro. He is just a pro's pro, right? He be old man in these dudes in the ring.
Right.
Look like he doesn't do much, but he's just so effective in his style. That speaks to his experience. That speaks to his ring IQ. I would love to see his that kind of experience, that kind of guile that he has against just the overall athletic talent and explosiveness of Ola Skwaga. Didn't matter for me who it is. Um, Ola Skwaga, his camp. I urge you to step up the level in competition either later on this year or early next year. The other fight I want to highlight in that Yokohama uh, Japan card was Nonito Donaire, right? Fighting Riku Masuda in what was a bantamweight eliminator WBA version. And look, got to know when to hold them, got to know when to fold them. And I'm a
Mhm.
put a qualifier on this. Got to know when to walk away and got to know when to call it a day. Matsuda stopped Donaire in seven. No, Donaire. It's time. You're 43 years old. You've had a fantastic career. This is your second fight in a row. This time was by stoppage. Um, you do not need to fight anymore. Please hang up the gloves, sir.
Yeah, I love Nonito. That guy is crazy. I mean, what the hell is he thinking? He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. But, the stoppage against Inoue, no shade thrown on that one. I mean, it happens. And it was Inoue. And he had gotten he had come as close as anyone to putting a beat down on Naoya Inoue in their first fight. So yeah, so he gets knocked out early in the rematch. I mean, and that's not unusual. But then to ground these fights out, and in all but all of these last 4, of the 3 losses in his last 4 that weren't knockouts before that, he's been behind on the cards, not by a lot, but he was behind at the point of the knockout on Sunday, 68-63 on 2 of the cards, 67-64 on the third. Well, unfortunately, a guy like Donaire, who's just so hell bent on, getting back in there because he loves it so much, he'll say, "Well, I was still close." Yeah, I think the only person that might be able to talk him into hanging it up is his wife, Rachel, who's not as knowledgeable about the fight game and boxing. She's involved as a trainer. She's been in all the gyms. She's been around it for years, right alongside Nonito. She's not the typical, boxing wife, if I can stereotype her here. And I think he would listen to her if she really made the case. But damn, he's still making bantamweight and he's 43 years old. He knows that he can get in shape. And unfortunately, it's just giving him the idea of, hey, I can still do this thing. I'm still making weight. I'm not struggling. He loves the process. He loves training, but damn it, man. I mean, he is now into double-digit losses. That was his 10th loss. Uh, I mean, he's like the lower weight division's Derek Chisora, for God's sakes. It's time.
I mean, I'm the Donaire of 10 years ago not would have not only won, he would have stopped this dude.
Oh, without question. Without question. Yeah. I mean, he's fought everybody. Everybody there was at his level, in the day. He didn't back down from a single one of them. I mean, and he lost to several of them because he was willing to take everyone on. He was willing to take on Inoue. He was willing to take on Carl Frampton. He was willing, the first big shocking loss we all saw was him losing to Rigondeaux. And then a few fights later, Nicholas Walters, who after he beat Donaire completely faded into the background. I mean, it was like he was put in the witness protection program. What the hell? So, he has always stepped forward, he has always stepped toward danger. He's just one of those guys. He just loves it. But at some point, he needs an intervention. He needs one now.
Yeah, indeed. I have no more to add on to that. I see Daniel has joined us. Daniel from Ford Boxing News and the Inscriber. I'll get him into the discussion right now when talking news. Let's start with Top Rank. It was announced yesterday that Top Rank has been basically without a deal since things expired between them and ESPN. Daniel, it looks like now they have a new deal with the Zone. Your reaction to it and a byproduct of this could potentially And shout out to both of Three Kings Boxing who first noted this. He wrote an article about this. The byproduct of this could be potentially at 154 pounds a fight between Boots and Zayas. Let's talk about it.
Yes. Okay. Now the trek of Top Rank to the Zone has been an interesting one. Obviously, we know that they let the deal with ESPN expire, and for a good while, it looked like they were going to wind up in a landing spot with Turner Sports, Warner Brothers Discovery. So everybody's trying to figure out. I know we all talked about possibly the revival of HBO boxing, and then maybe seeing some aspects of that come back, but with Paramount now seemingly locking down Warner Bros. Discovery and folding into that umbrella, it got a little bit complicated because Paramount signed a deal with TKO, the parent company of the UFC and WWE, for UFC fights. And from the sound of it, it looks like TKO has revived a clause that WWE used when it came to broadcasting that gave them pretty much exclusivity throughout most of the networks that you were affiliated with, and now they just upgraded to straight TKO. So then, unfortunately, took Warner Bros. Discovery out, and then we heard rumors that they were going back to ESPN. Unfortunately, that probably got stopped as soon as they realized that WWE has a deal with ESPN when it comes to the pay-per-views. And that exclusivity clause kicked in again. Luckily for us, there is still the Zone. As much as there's been issues with the Zone, at least there's a partner there that doesn't fully bow down to Turkey, doesn't fully try to coddle people like Dana White. And now you have it open the fight. Like Zayas versus Boots. There's already talk about Zayas wants to try to get the fight in Puerto Rico. That fight belongs to the Garden. I'm sorry, like a fighter from Philly versus a fighter that makes New York his home. You to fight in Philly or in New York, but the fact of the possibility, it's there. And it also means that, like I said, two people that were for a long time rivals, Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, are now in the same umbrella. And who's also with them? Oscar De La Hoya. So we're starting to see more or less a coalition that will try to fight off Zuffa boxing. At least what they're trying to do, which is basically turn boxing into the UFC. I don't know the parameters of the deal, but I'm glad that it happened because, yeah, granted, we know there's some of the broadcasting people maybe a little bit to be desired, but now Top Rank does have a home. Now you can actually see where the fights are going to be. And overall, like I said, it may help them recover a lot of people because they did lose Mikaela Mayer to Jake Paul, more people. But luckily, better late than never, Bob.
And speaking of Mikaela Mayer, Daniel kind of stole our next topic within the news, and that is one Mikaela Mayer. To his last comment, Gail did long time with Top Rank, right? Sign a deal with Jake Paul's MVP. As much as I've had my issues with Paul and what he says and how he conducts himself outside of the ring, or even in the ring in terms of him as a fighter, this was the best option for Mayer long-term standpoint, right? Paul has cornered the market with women's boxing. He signed outside of maybe Shields and Katie Taylor. He signed just about every other prominent women's boxer out there, right? Uh, Mikaela Mayer is no fool. She knows where the where the money is right now, and so I cannot knock her for this decision.
Well, and the fighters under Top Rank are, were really in a tough position. Top Rank did what they could for all their fighters, trying to place them on other cards, especially their champions. Thank goodness, they managed to stage the Zayas Barao fight, the Navarrete fight with Sugar Nunez by partnering with some of the promoters that they have good relationships with. In Mexico, that Sanfer they can work with. They have placed fighters with Yvonne Michelle's Eye of the Tiger in Canada, which has worked for them. They've put a lot of their younger guys on, other undercards, just keeping them busy. Emiliano Vargas has been on several non-top rank cards out there. He fought, I'm trying to recall what the card it was he was last on, but he's had several fights that were non-top rank while they've been in this limbo. Problem with Mayer is Top Rank did not have a critical mass of women's fighters. So even now that they have revived themselves and have a path going forward, there's just not a lot they can do because the women's fighters are all coalescing under the MVP banner.
Especially with the retirement of Superbad Estrada, Mayer was it.
Right, exactly. Well, it's funny. I even heard discussion, but per our earlier discussion about Gabriela Fundora, somebody floated the idea of, hey, maybe once Sinisia's, new baby is a little older, maybe she wants to come back at 115 and fight Gabriela. Never say
The problem
never.
is that hand, though. Is that hand with Sinise?
I think
was
she's
super bad.
truly,
my fear is that it was permanently damaged.
Yeah, I think she's truly retired. I don't think that's going to happen. But, if Mayer really wants the top fights, and she does, and she's another one of these fighters who does, who runs toward danger, never shirks off an opponent. That's the place to be. That's the place where all the attention is going. That's where the money's going. And it's being done organically and in the right way. The fighters are being signed for good money. They are all doing it on their own, one at a time, seeing, the other champions, working with Jake Paul. They see how, and I agree with you, his outside the boxing ring behavior, and sometimes leaves a little to be desired. However, no one can question how he has put so many of these women on the map. He is paying them extremely well. He's giving them the promotion and the props they deserve, the platform. He has gotten them on Netflix with tremendous exposure, and this new deal to jump on board ESPN's new initiative to make Sunday nights a women's sports night. Absolute genius. And it's a business decision. This is a charity for him. Jake Paul is, not a charitable guy. He is doing things because there's potential. They make money. It's a place he can apply his talents and make it all work. And women's sports, especially if you follow, for example, Sports Business Journal and some of the people out there crunching the numbers and looking at the economics present in women's sports today, of all types, not just boxing, women's sports is the biggest growth area in sports overall of any type. The WNBA is, is starting to show tremendous numbers. Women's soccer, especially as we get, another World Cup coming up. Women's professional soccer is really taking off in the United States. Women's professional volleyball has had a massive growth spurt. Go figure. And women's combat sports, very similar. Jake Paul has decided, what? This is a growth arena. There's money to be made. There are fans to be found. And I'm going to bring the women on because nobody else is paying attention. It's very smart of him to do that. And it's not again, it happened the right way organically. Women made their deals individually, not because there was some sort of threat to become a UBO or shut out everybody else. They will book fights with every single other promoter willing to work with them. There are a few that won't, but the majority will. Partly it's forced because, there is only so much competition at the highest levels, especially as you start going, above, really much above 135 and 140 for the women, which is the problem Claressa Shields has had, for example. So, everybody is hopeful that Claressa and Mikaela can somehow see themselves to making a deal. Mikaela says she only has two demands. One was to be paid well for it. Well, now that she's with MVP, that will happen. But she will not fight Claressa above 160, so she says. Claressa says, I can't get down to that. So we have a stalemate right now, but if they want that fight, I think they will figure out a way to make it happen. But in the meantime, there's much more.
Price at 147.
Yeah. I think that would be tough. But there's a lot more. There are a lot of fights out there for Mikaela, and they may not be household names, but within the sport, there's plenty of talent. And let me tell you, these MVP women's cards draw. They sell out. They've sold out Madison Square Garden multiple times. The promotions are tremendous. They're first class all the way. The fans love it. And these are new fans. And it isn't just MVP. Dimitri Salita is the other promoter who has really put on quite a few women's fights. Of course, he's Claressa's promoter. And he has found that niche for her there in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena, where she sets up shop, and it is a sellout. I mean, it is not just a fight card. It is a cultural event, and people show up, and they're all new boxing fans, and they're going to stick around. That's how you grow the sport.
Indeed. So, financially, and otherwise, it's a good move for Mayer. And will that fight with Claressa Shields gets made? Who knows? Part of me thinks that Shields will eventually change her mind because of the money to move, and she'll decide
nothing else left for her. I mean, she's wiped out everybody else. The only
outside of a fight with Shadeja Green, there's nothing left.
And Shadeja's fighting as the co-main on the first MVP card to the Baumgartner. And assuming Shadeja wins, I do think that'll be the next fight.
Indeed. One last bit of news here. I'll go back to you. Go to both of you on this one. News broke within the last 24 hours that Jose Resendiz would fight Jermall Charllo for that WBA belt at 168 pounds. I hadn't changed it in the description here because right before we went live here, that had a change of opponent instead of Charllo. Instead, Resendiz is going to fight Jaime Munguia. Resendiz hasn't fought since that upset win over Caleb Plant, I think last May. I think Jaime Munguia hadn't fought since May of last year either. I don't know how to feel about this, whether it's Munguia or whether it was Charllo. Both of them are getting title shots that they really didn't deserve. You don't know how much of a real champion Resendiz is. Did Plant have an off night? Was he not fully concentrated? The bottom line is, Daniel, this fight is being made, but I'm kind of indifferent because I have questions about both of these guys.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting parts of it, just how it happened. Like within the span of 24 hours, okay, you're fighting Maul, and then as soon as they Jaime Munguia, and with the claim that Jaime Munguia was actually the first choice. If that were the case, you would have made the fight with Jaime Munguia. That's the main thing. But it's an interesting conundrum you have because obviously this is 168. This is Canelo's division. Until he says otherwise, that's still his division. He's still the guy that, with Bud retired, goes back to being the top guy by default. Now, that leaves, unfortunately, a lot of things to being flux in the division because between somebody probably trying to lure Bud back in, but there's also other fighters like Jabinet could probably still move up to 168. But Billy's still there. So, like, there's still some players to have lucky in the division. It's just that you hope that they actually can be able to fight. This fight, unfortunately, same thing. It doesn't intrigue me as much, whether it would have been Charllo or Munguia.
Your reaction to this news, Gail?
You know, I had read the news that it looked like we were going to see Resendiz and Charllo, and I thought, who is trying to resurrect Charllo from the dead? Really?
Right.
Do we really need this fight? No. I just thought, oh no, don't try to sell me this. There's no way in hell anybody's going to convince me of the wisdom of, or the necessity of this. So I will say this. Yeah, I think Jukiya and Resendiz is an improvement. Still, it doesn't mean it's good, but I think to myself, well, I guess it could have been worse. And you know, Jukiya is at the point of kind of still on the redemption tour. So, I mean, knowing that and assuming it's positioned that way, and there's no pretense to the great champion, former champion Charlo coming back, which is just nonsense. Yeah, this is a tiny bit of an improvement, but that is the definition of the phrase damning with faint praise.
Just is my reaction to all this. I have
Right.
nothing else.
Well, and
to
it's such a shame because
I'm indifferent. That's just my
I
attitude.
mean,
It's
it's
indifferent.
because their names are familiar. Munguia has fans. Munguia's a draw, has been a champion, fought Canelo, blah, 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 right? Okay, we all get that. I wish the promoters would put just as much energy into promoting these up-and-comers like some of the people we talked about tonight, like Olascuaga, like Naji Lopez, who just was phenomenal. Who wouldn't want to see Manuel Gallegos again? People don't know who the hell he is. Well, they do now. Take advantage of that. Get these guys decent opponents and in front of the fans. I'll tell you that again, another pro box fighter who stepped up, did himself proud even in a loss, who has since come back with a spectacular knockout at the end of last year, Ramon Cardenas. We need to see him again. These are the guys that deliver value for the fan, that anyone can sit in front of their fights and say, damn, that was good. That was great. They don't care who the names are necessarily. And boxing needs to get smarter about this. I wish that Pro Box had a little bit more visibility of a broadcast deal or something behind them. But, they're plugging away this weekend. Here I am being a shill for Pro Box, but Lester Martinez, who fought Christian and Billy to a draw, let us remember, a very hotly contested one, he's back in action this Saturday. I'm going to go see him because he's in Southern California, and it's completely under the radar, and that's a shame. It shouldn't be. So again, my admonition for everybody within the sound of my voice, live or otherwise, put your reminders on the calendar, check out the Pro Box cards. They are free. They are on YouTube. They are accessible, doesn't matter where you are, and you're not going to be disappointed. Even if you do not know the names on the schedule, you're going to find some new favorites among the talent that they're putting on.
Indeed, and let's move on to uh, preview some fights here. You mentioned the aforementioned. You mentioned Lester Martinez, who's fighting Emmanuel Alim over in San Bernardino. That should be a good scrap. Martinez, as you mentioned, uh, had that draw against Mobili, who's now WBC Bull super middleweight champion. Martinez is the interim belt holder at 168 pounds. Again, that's going to be this Saturday in San Bernardino. Another fight I want to focus on soon as I get this technology right is Carlos Adames, who has a belt at 160, WBC version at 160 pounds, fighting Austin Ammo Williams. I go to you on this one, Daniel. Doesn't have any ring rust, right? I know Ammo Williams can punch a bit, exciting style, but from a skill perspective, I don't think he's in Adames's league. If Adames brings his A game, even if he brings his B plus game, I just don't see a way in which Williams can beat him. I think Adames should outbox him and win by a fairly comfortable margin.
That's the key word. Should. Adamas obviously has the better footwork, the better speed. Like I said, overall better skill than Williams. But this is boxing. If you're a puncher, you have a chance. Does it? But it's going to be interesting for once to come in because I don't think he's going to be able to fully evade Adamas's guard enough to land a series of shots because it's not going to be just one punch. It has to be a series of punches. It has to be good combinations. And for as much as power as Williams has, I don't think he has enough skill work, especially on footwork side, to be able to land the combinations that he needs to land to really put Adames on the back foot. It can happen, but I highly doubt. I expect Adames probably to win, more than likely unanimous decision. He'll probably get rounds. I'll probably say 116, 112, something like that. A fair fight. Give Williams a few rounds, but at the end of the day, Adames should cruise to victory.
Your thoughts, Gail?
You know, Adames has got some questions to answer because he dropped out of the fight on its original date. What has that been? A couple of months ago. There were a lot of questions about exactly what was going on with him. Why did he drop out? Was it a weight issue? Was it? I think there was illness cited. So I would normally say, had that not happened, yeah, Adames is the clear favorite. I'm not 100% sure about that. There was the fight between he and Hamza Shiraz that ended in a draw. Now Shiraz needed to move up in weight, which is another theme we've had on the show tonight, which he did. So that could have been the issue, but it's like those memes where you see question marks sort of pop up floating over a guy's head. That's kind of where I see Adames. And he's not, he's very workmanlike. He's more of a boxer than a puncher. He's more technical than power. So, let's see how he decides to approach the fight. I think he can win, but I'm sure you could tell by the tone of my voice, I'm not convinced he can win.
Interesting. We're going to leave it on that note, that kind of intrigue from Gail as we close things out. If you're checking us out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. To do that, you'll get notifications in any of our future episodes and shorts, because we're now throwing shorts out from each episode, YouTube shorts out from each episode, right? We begin the show with ladies first. Going to end the show with ladies first. Gail from nyfights.com. Let the folks know where they can find you and talk about your own YouTube channel here, talking all things
Well,
boxing.
bless you for the shorts, because anybody sticking around with us for an hour, you are the hardcore. We know not everybody has that kind of time. So, those of you wait for the highlight reel, I can respect that. You can find me and my interview series on my YouTube channel, which is Gail Falkenthal Unboxing. It's pretty easy to find. If you could spell my name, you can find it. And I have had a slew of interviews pop up there lately. I spoke with Anthony Kakache a few days before his fight, and he was in the back of a cab in Dublin. That was quite entertaining. I had my opportunity to speak with, trying to think who else I popped up there. Caden Griffiths, who's a young prospect in the Golden Boy stable, who is quite the knockout artist. And he looks like a throwback 80s surfer kid straight out of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I swear. But he is based in the Diaz Brothers gym in Indio, where he's beating up all those Uzbeks in sparring, which is very impressive. And he's 19. That's interesting. The next one that's going to be popped up there is a local talent here in our area in San Diego, Johnny Mansour, also his cousin Julius Ballo, who both want to jointly become the first Chaldean American world champions. So they are promoting their own fight card. Not sure that's a good idea, but I admire the hustle. Well, that one will be up a little later this week.
And I'll go to you, Daniel, from For Boxing News and the Inscriber. For those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially all things Miami Heat, in the aftermath of Bam Adebayo putting up 83, and the hubbub and hoopla and pushed back by some against that, his effort. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, you see the socials right there, folks. Rocks99, RAWKZ99. Those are the socials everywhere. Twitter, IG, Blue Sky, Spill, Counter Social. Spotify. Pretty much every social that I know, luckily has that name on there. Definitely catch us on there, and we have to pay attention because we may be counting on some cards to be active, but some cards, particularly if you're a lover of Riyadh season, you may be expecting some delays fairly soon with what's going on in the world. But hopefully, like I said, it leads to more fights being moved to this side of the Atlantic, maybe, and then try to get more fights on the domestic front rather than us waiting on the Saudis to put on the card.
Well, I think that we'll probably see them move to the UK. I do. And that would be the right thing to do.
Indeed, and shout out to Compliance, who's joining us in the live chat. Unfortunately, you're doing so at the very end. Again, I'm going to put up some short YouTube shorts with highlights from this particular episode, either right after the show this evening or within by the end of this week. I'll put it that way. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and all things smell good, you know what it is for me in the social media streets. Brother JR at Brother JR76 on Twitter, because again, I refuse to call it X. You can check me out on Blue Sky at Brother JR76, on Twitter at Brother JRSC. And I am on TikTok. What in the world? Excuse me, I'm just reading some technical issues on my part on TikTok over on Brother JRSC. On the next episode, we would have a recap of Adames and Amon Williams. Again, Adames defending his WBC middleweight belt. Also, do a recap of Lester Martinez fighting Emmanuel Alim, and we'll have a preview of Sebastian Fundora, who returns to the ring to fight Keith Thurman. Yoenis Tellez fighting Brian Mendoza on that undercard. And in England, Moises Atuma, who is the talk of the UK boxing scene, particularly when it comes to the heavyweight division. A lot of people from that part of the world believe he is a future world champion. What 21 year old phenom. Um, so we will talk about his fight. He's fighting Jermaine Franklin. Is fighting Jermaine Franklin in Manchester on the Zone. Uh, I want to thank. I know you joined us late. I want to thank you, Compliance, for joining us in the live chat. For Gail of nyfights.com, for Daniel for Boxing News, and the Inscriber. This has been episode 481 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I am your host, Michael. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Everyone have a good evening. Good night. But before I leave, if
Yes.
you are a fan of Showtime at the Apollo, particularly during the 80s, 90s, early aughts, um, lost what I would consider the Black Vanna White, Sybil Shepherd, who passed away, surprised, shocking fashion earlier today of massive heart attack. So I want to give safe rest in honor to her. I did not want to leave this episode without honoring her passing. So again, episode 481 of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. For Gail, for Daniel, this is Michael. We will see you guys next time.
Rest